from averaging a monster 35 points per game since the All-Star break to dominating both ends of the court. Joel Embiid has been in the form of his life, and he's just overtaken Nikola Jokic as the favorite in the MVP race. The Philly big man is playing the game the way it was supposed to be played. He's doing it all on both ends, while leading the league in PPG too. Simply put, there's no stopping Embiid right now. And even with a potential triple-double on the cards from his longtime MVP rival, it seems that Embiid has just about edged ahead in the MVP race. If not for their postseason preparations, the 76ers would have ridden Embiid's form and fought tooth and nail for the second seed in the Eastern Conference. Instead, they're being clever about it and haven't gone all out, resting Embiid down the stretch, particularly against the Denver Nuggets, in what could have been the biggest one-on-one battle for the MVP award. As much as Embiid wants to win the MVP after missing out by a whisker in 2 consecutive seasons, it seems that he's okay in wanting to save his body for what could be a massive postseason for Philly. But despite sitting out the latest Sixers game, Joel Embiid is the favorite for the MVP crown, with only 7 games left in the season. However, being honest, I genuinely think it won't be a straightforward decision. NBA's MVP ladder is a good representation of the race, yes, but at the same time, it's not very accurate when it comes to the final vote. For now though, if Embiid truly wants to win the crown, he's gotta make that push in the final stretch and play out of his mind in the last few games. If he can replicate the kind of form he's been in throughout March, then there's no reason why he shouldn't win the MVP award.
Embiid fakes, Embiid down the lane!
He's averaging a monster 33.3 points per game over the course of the season, and looks set to become the scoring leader this season, edging ahead of Doncic by 0.3 points. In fact, he's done it on better shooting percentage, having scored 54.5% of his shots, compared to Doncic's 49.7%. He's also 7th in the league for rebounds, averaging just over 10 for the season, while coming up with 1.1 steals per game and 1.7 blocks per game. That's not normal.
The offensive rebound.
But despite all these numbers, the discourse about the MVP race is way too complicated, and lately, it's gotten out of hand, which is still an understatement. From debates over racial bias to limitations of one-number metrics, analysts and well-wishers of both players are having a crusade on the sidelines. Yes, Embiid really wants to be the league's MVP. Who wouldn't, after missing out on 2 consecutive seasons? But he did not sign up to be front and center in those racial debates that have truly taken the joy out of the game. On the other hand, the Serb has made it known that he does not care about the award, but his fans are ready to go to war for him and to get him a 3rd straight MVP. If it was just a comparison of the league's best players, like it usually is, then there would be some fairly mid disagreements, a couple of comments and retorts from the players involved. Instead, what we're getting is a full blown out proxy war on TV, from the fetishization of efficiency to what a modern center should be like. And it all started with Kendrick Perkins and JJ Redick's heated exchange on air about the race, and about the demographics of the media members who ultimately vote for the award. It was absolutely wild. And yes, it went viral big time, but lost within all of the arguments is the fact that there will be 2 very worthy MVP award winners who will go home empty-handed. I'm sure that's the case every season, and why should it be different this season? But it's just so absurd to think about. On one hand, you've got an anomaly averaging 25 points every night, along with nearly 12 rebounds and 9.9 assists per game for the best team in the West.
Jokic, put it up.
On the other, the most overwhelming force in the sport, averaging the most points in the league with 10.2 rebounds to carry one of the top teams in the East.
5 seconds to go.
There you go.
Embiid driving, spinning, fading, hitting.
Yet there's a chance that one of them will not have enough to win the award, and also a chance that even both of them might miss out, because you've got a 3rd candidate, Giannis Antetokounmpo, averaging over 31 points, nearly 12 rebounds, 5.6 assists, and leads the team with the best overall record. All that said and done though, you could genuinely make a case for either of the three players. But as Embiid is leading the race according to the official NBA website, let's try to make a case for him. Don't worry, I'm not going over stats again. There's been enough of that. But I do want to point out that there's an overwhelming discourse about Jokic's stats being irrelevant because he has been accused of stat padding. That was very much the center of all debates on social media, with Embiid fans pointing out how the back-to-back reigning MVP had to take matters into his own hands, otherwise he'd have been the last pick in the All-Star game. That might not mean a lot, but it goes to show that Jokic's value to the game isn't exactly as much as Embiid's. And despite averaging a triple-double and what would be a historic achievement, Jokic got absolutely destroyed by Embiid in January, the last time the two came up against each other, with the 76ers center scoring 47 points, along with 18 rebounds, while Jokic ended the night with half of those figures, with 24 points and 8 rebounds. I know I said I won't talk about stats, but that's my main point here. Embiid dominated Jokic throughout the game and led the comeback when the Sixers were down by 15 at halftime to win comfortably in the end, with a 7-point margin. So maybe when it matters most, Embiid shines. And if we can take into account the impact, then Embiid deserves to have his name taken and rightfully lead the MVP race. But I've also got some numbers for the stat lovers to crunch. Here are 3 stats that show Embiid's dominance and why he should absolutely win the MVP. Firstly, because Embiid isn't just a good scorer, he's scoring at an all-time level. Yeah, the 29-year-old is averaging 0.85 points per minute over his entire career, by the way, which is more than any other player in NBA history. Even MJ only had 4 seasons with a points per minute of over 0.85, and this season he's doing it with 0.96. Impressed? Why wouldn't you be? But he's also an elite facilitator, something that he doesn't get enough credit for. Yeah, he might not be as great as Jokic, but he's averaging 6.5 assists per game when James Harden sits, which indicates that he can easily excel in that role too, and hasn't been able to do so because there's obviously a better player to pull the strings. Finally, the last statistic that should be his trump card in the MVP debate, which is his defense. But defense can be extremely hard to quantify, so I'm gonna use the most basic stat, the combined blocks and steals per game, in which Embiid's averaging a monster 2.81 and is 5th in the NBA. And given his insane impact on the other end of the floor, the Cameroonian should really win the MVP award this season ahead of Nikola Jokic. That's all I had for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Do anything different, so everything what I need to do for the win.